And good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Pattison Ave Phanatics show. I'm your host, James Scorza, on this beautiful Saturday, and hopefully it'll be a lot better than the last few days because it's been brutal out here the last couple of days. Anyways, and with me as always is the group of companions on this beautiful Saturday morning, Joey Marks,
Happy, sweaty, sweltering Saturday morning, Philadelphia.
Damon Celine, and Damon
Mo-
Celine.
good morning, everybody. And I concur. It's sweaty, hot, and bit of a shower earlier.
Totally, yeah, I agree. You have to have some cold showers to keep you going, to say the least. Anyways, we got a lot to get to on this Saturday.
Mhm.
Philly's looking to try to get back into the playoff hunt and probably get back into the groove of the stretch run. Training camp training camp just started this week for the Eagles and the Sixers. A lot of drama to get to, but we got a lot to get to, Damon. So where do we begin?
Today we'll start with those soap opera, if your guys call it drama, Sixers.
Yep.
So I'm not even going to go down. I don't even want to go down the guard lane. Hard. We're
Right.
not even going to touch that today. But I would like to. Charles Barkley,
Oh,
former Sixer great, um, picked the Sixers, James and Joe, as one of the NBA contenders.
seriously.
Um, yeah, he picked. It was the Sixers, Nuggets, I believe the Heat, the Bucks, and I believe the Warriors.
Hmm.
Yeah, those were his five. I think five teams that he picked as contenders. We obviously know as constructed, um, they're not. That's according to Nick Nurse. They're not. That's not going to be the team going into the season. But I find it quite interesting
Absolutely.
that Charles would pick them. Just want to get you guys' thoughts on that, and in terms of where we are and where that could possibly maybe solidify that down the road as far as a trade.
Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me and I'm kind of surprised he didn't pick like his Suns or Atlanta because he really likes certain
Hmm.
teams and he kind of
Hmm.
kind of
Good morning,
homers up to
Fuchs. How are
those
you, buddy?
teams.
Good morning, Fuji.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so it doesn't surprise me also because he doesn't like them, and I'm sure Shaquille O'Neal have something to say about this. The L.A. Lakers.
Hmm.
He doesn't like ever picking them, and even if the Lakers are good, he'll always be like, "Yeah,
Right.
but." So with Charles, it's interesting because in the interview I heard from like a week or two ago, he's optimistic about what this team could look like going forward
Hmm.
with Embiid
Hmm.
and Maxey. He's of the opinion
Hmm.
that you don't need to have Harden to define who this team is. You may not
Yes.
even need someone like a Tobias like
Hmm.
if you subtract Tobias and James, the team doesn't fall asunder. Like it
Right.
doesn't just fall apart.
Hmm.
And I think in Charles's mind, the reason why he may have so much optimism is because if the Sixers move away from Harden, and even if they wait a year to move away from Tobias,
Right.
they're still in line to be a contender because as long as they have Joel Embiid and Maxi, there's
Hmm.
always competition. And look, we know from what history tells us, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, hockey, that divisions and conferences can change dependent on other players' movements, not necessarily your team, but
Right.
other players' movements. I
Hmm.
mean, the NFC, there's been in football, the NFC has been like the mass exodus of like quality
Hmm.
quarterbacks.
Right.
Now in the East for NBA, there's beast in the East, but as
Hmm.
we've seen in the past, I don't know, couple weeks with Bradley Beal going to the West,
Yes.
Durant going to the West, there may be a mass exodus
Hmm.
starting to occur in the East towards the West. Which, if that happens, then you got to think if it's just Maxi and Embiid, and
Hmm.
we don't have Harden and Tobias, but we still have pieces. I mean, it's not to say like
Right.
we're just going to subtract those and not get anything back, but
Hmm.
it means that this team could still be sustainable and competitive in the East, especially if that exodus continues.
Right, and I agree with that. And James, just if you can, in terms of what Joey was saying, in terms of what Charles was saying, picking the Sixers, as one of the top contenders for the title. Do you share those thoughts, or and if not, what will get you to maybe see it in a different light?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, like you said there, Dame. But I think the one thing that really sticks out to me is just the lack of them being the NBA contenders. It's like, I mean, if they can get
Mm.
all the pieces in a row, the ducks in a row, just
Yeah.
to get the group like back to the way it was. I
Mhm.
mean, that's the one thing I take out of it too. But I don't know much about the whole circumstance about the Sixers being NBA contenders. I mean, they're
Yeah.
probably like after. I mean, if they find a way to get, like I said, if they finally get like the Harden thing straightened out and the
Yeah.
Embiid news all straightened out, maybe they have a possibility. I mean, there's always a possibility they can be NBA contenders, but the possibility of them getting past the second round. I mean, if you get like a big player to fill that role, maybe, but
Right.
at the same time, it's gonna be a little bit difficult. Rob Hefner checks in for the first time in quite a while. How you been, Rob? Long time no see. He says, "What's up, fellas? Pumped up for the NFL season. Fly Eagles, fly!" Yeah, man, I can't wait. 2 more weeks. Two more
Yeah.
weeks to the
Yeah.
day, man. Can't
Well,
wait.
Actually, next week, a
That's
week from
right.
today,
mhm.
is the first preseason game,
Hall
and
of Fame game.
Ike Reese brought this up. Starting next weekend, there will be some sort of football, whether it's pro or college. There will be some sort of football on every weekend until February. So,
We.
folks,
Oh, I love
buckle
it.
up,
I love it.
Yeah.
I
buckle
Yeah.
love it,
up.
man. I
It's still
love it a lot.
still take a minute to get in. So no, no, I agree with you guys. I hear what you guys are saying as far as that's concerned. I think one of the things that couple things that just came about. One in regards to them being a contender. I think Nick Nurse plays a major part in that. I think people are really interested in seeing what he's going to do with the players. They were showing some footage the other day of Paul Reed playing in the Pro-Am League. He was hitting jump shots, taking more jump shots than I've seen him take. Again, it's Pro-Am, we get it. But
Yep.
they want to have him in more of that, as he says, the Siakam role. The other thing that just came about, Joey,
How do you
is we
like that? How do you like that comment, Damon? How do you like
uh
him trying to say, "I want to fill that role"?
that's a tall order. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not a Siakam fan, but he's a good player. He's a really good player.
yeah.
His shot's ugly, but I got to give him credit. But I will say this: obviously, Nick Nurse has seen something, and if nothing else, I give him credit for trying something different with this young man,
Right.
right? For trying to
Mhm.
open up something that may be there. So I can't fault him for that. And if he can improve upon his game, which actually, Joe, I'm glad you asked me that. I so a couple things. This is a two-part question. One, the league had just come down on Dame Lillard and his agent saying, if you continue to speak out saying you want to go to the Heat, there will be disciplinary actions. Okay. So one, does the Sixers still try to go for him? And two, speaking about Paul Reed in that Siakam role, and I thought he was going to use Tobias in his role. How would you guys feel? Let's say they move Harden but get wings and not necessarily a traditional point guard. How would you feel going into the start of the season without a traditional point guard, where you would have a Tobias maybe running that position, Maxey at times, kind of like a rotating position, and also in regards to the Dame Lillard situation?
Well,
Hmm.
I mean, let's remember something.
Mhm.
For a short stint last year, we still have D'Anthony Melton, and so
Very
D'Anthony
good
Melton did play point guard
point.
while Maxi played off guard
Yeah.
occasionally, and
True.
so Melton is still very quality. I know we would like to keep him on the bench as a quality six man. I don't disagree with that, but if you're put in a position where you're like, okay, we want to have Maxi off ball, but we want to have a guy who can run the floor and be that floor general if Harden's not here and all of that. Now, in regards to your Dame Lillard
Mhm.
question, the idea that first off, it's funny that now the NBA wants to start garnering that rule.
That's I knew
It,
Joey
it's
would love
just
this one.
it's funny that like they're like, can you
Mhm.
stop it? Like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, because Dame's got more followers than the NBA on social
Right.
media. Now y'all are offended? Like, no,
It's
no,
been
no,
two
no, no.
months. It's been 2
Just
months.
because he just
Exactly.
because he's more of an influencer than your guys are doesn't
Mhm.
mean a damn thing. Dude,
Right.
look,
Right.
I don't think the Damon to Miami will happen. I
Mhm.
just don't. And here's why. Because you're going to have to give up a Jimmy Butler. There's no right, wrong, or indifferent. They don't have enough star talent to give
Mhm.
the Trailblazers
Amazing.
enough for Damon. And like Charles said, well, I'm sorry, as James Harden said, and I
Mhm.
can't believe I'm agreeing with James Harden, but he said in an interview this week, he said, no team's going to give away their star player for very little in return. That's just
Right.
it needs to work for both. And he's
Right.
like, and I get it. It needs to work for both the player and the team. Even though the player wants to go, he understands that, well, they're not going to give me away for a bag of peanuts. Like, I
Right.
get that.
Or a
So,
box of cheeseburgers or something like he has showed
right.
on the
So,
Right.
picture.
for Dame, in my mind, I could see a 3-team deal
Mhm.
going on. There's gonna
Mhm.
have to be if there's a possibility of him going to Miami,
Right.
there's gonna have to be a third team involved. If that's even a possibility. But here's the thing. If Dame is there a chance, and I get it, Frank's not here, and he's like, you're looking at that blonde at the end of
Right.
the bar, and
Yeah.
you think
Yeah.
she wants to go home
Absolutely.
with you.
Right.
But listen, nothing's out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
I know that we get on Maury about some of the ineptitude moves, but I've
Mhm.
been reminded about some of the moves that were like, how the hell did he pull that off?
Right.
Al Horford clearing that guy off this roster
He had
for
like
what
3
he
years
did.
left. He had like 3 years
Right.
left in the contract.
And then Josh Richardson for like a
Curry.
quality player. Right.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, this guy knows how to move and groove.
Mhm.
It doesn't always happen, but I can tell you this. It shows me that he is a chess player. He
Mm.
waits for the board to show itself and
Mhm.
then he capitalizes.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have to play possum in
Mhm.
order to surprise your opponent and say, "Ooh, I got you. I got you." And so I hope that's what's coming down the road with Dame Lillard. I'm also of an opinion that Dame Lillard's not getting any younger,
Right.
and I don't want to give away. There's
Right.
obviously a bit of a youth movement. I want to speak to something you had brought up last week, Dame, about the coach from the Bluecoats is
Oh
now
yeah.
going to be an assistant coach with Nick Nurse on the Sixers,
Right. Right.
and I think
Kobe Call. Kobe Call. Yes. Kobe Call.
yeah,
Yes.
and I think that's a move
Mhm.
that is a lateral move
I'm glad you put that out.
that's going to push this team to be able to, I guess, progress the young talent that they've already put into this farm system, which
Joe,
is
I'm
why
glad
I
you.
think. Go ahead.
Look, I'm sorry.
So that's why I said, I think that Maury, when he said to Cuz a week or so ago, that
Mhm.
if we trade Harden, I would either take a quality player or
Mhm.
I would take picks that would get a quality player. That's not him saying if we get those quality picks to get a quality player that we would trade all those quality picks.
Right.
So he would still be willing to garner some assets in that farm system, so to speak.
And that's his mindset. I'm glad you brought that up. And James, any thoughts on the Dame Lillard situation? I want to get back to that Kobe Call.
Yeah. Before I get my interpretation about it, today's show is proudly sponsored by Sherry'sTickets.com. Save 10% by using the promo code EOP10 for great prices, no hidden fees for sports, concert, and theater. Visit our website at www.sherry'stickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946, and it is concert season. And right around the corner, sports will be the Eagles season will be upon us right before you know it. So check it out all year round. visit their website, like I said, at www.sherrystickets.com and tell them that the boys at Pattison Ave and EOP sent you.
Yeah, James. So would Joey piggyback off what Joey said in regards to Damian Lillard, that blind? You think you'll be taking? Is that blind still trying to come home?
Well, I'll think of like a redhead, like in the words of George Carlin would say.
I like redheads. Redheads are nice.
Hey,
They're gorgeous women.
I'm used to dealing with redheads. I'm used to being a redhead.
Not
I'm
your
used
kind
to
of
dealing
redhead,
with
Joey,
redheads.
but
Yeah,
But see,
I mean,
I married a blonde, so you know my taste already.
there you go. I mean, look, if she's like a little bit like has black hair or gothic, I'm good with that too. I don't care.
brunette, yeah.
I mean, I'm good with that too. I mean,
James wants an
might,
emo girl. James wants an emo girl at the corner of the bar. And I mean, listen. All I could say is that girl at the corner at the end of the bar that represents Dame Lillard is giving me the F me eyes, and she has been for quite some
she's
time.
giving you hand.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and listen, I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. My wife might be sitting next to me, but I'm okay with that.
You'll
But
take that.
I'm
You'll
okay
take
with that. Yeah, but
I
see
get it.
that's the thing. And James, you can speak to this, and I'll let you
Sure, yeah.
like hone in on this. The idea of Damian Lillard and what's been going on the last
redheads
week.
are awesome. Yep, you know it, brother.
Yep.
You know
Yes. But what's your takeaway with Damian Lillard and this whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I really do like about it is that if like, does anybody have an idea? Like, I mean, I don't know much about the NBA's like whole, as so-called like how to trade players, like the three-team
Oh
trade.
yeah, it has to match. They all
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
match.
that's what I'm
That's
saying.
That's why Joey was saying possibly a 3-team deal, whatever. Yeah, the salaries have to match.
I was thinking like you trade James Harden. I mean, this is probably a conspiracy theory because I don't effing know. But I'm thinking like probably that if you trade James Harden to Portland and we get Damian Lillard back,
I've been saying that. That makes sense.
It
Age
does.
and everything.
Doesn't
Like that's what I said to D Line. I said the same thing. Like that. Why don't they just do that head up? But they don't.
Yeah, I mean it's. I mean, yeah, I mean it'll be less hassle. I mean, I'll be more than happy to bring Dame in and tell James Harden to hit the bricks. Sign me up.
Well, I would even go one step further and go, okay, I know that some people did not love that the Paul Reed thing and the extension and everything, but there's 5 centers on this 15-man roster. 5 centers.
Our pal Dave Yarnold says the same thing. What do you guys think about the 5 center Sixers carrying 5 centers to segue?
Yeah, and they're oh great. Me and Dave are on the same wavelength. That's going to tell you what this show's going to sound like. Great, thanks, Dave.
He's your personal hand puppet.
Stop that. He's not. He doesn't have his hand up anywhere near my ass. So
rails have gone off the rail.
Rails, bring it back. Let's bring it back.
Rails off.
And so, see, this is what Harden does to people.
Yeah,
exactly right.
This is the thing: is that with that perspective, you can incorporate the Heat, and they could get someone like an Anthony Simmons to complement that already young crew, because Anthony Simmons is going to have to go. And
That's what
Anthony Simmons is going to have to go somewhere where they can pay him, and Miami's that place. So if you incorporate Miami, Philly, and Portland, and Damon winds up ending up here, James ends up in Portland, Anthony Simmons ends up in Miami, and then in some regards, like Miami gives like compensatory picks or whatnot to both teams, or so maybe there's a 5th center or one of those 5th centers that the Sixers are carrying gets traded, as a throw-in. A lot of people feel like these centers aren't all going to be there at the beginning of the season, that they're just assets that Morey's trying to garner in order to get more, whether it's draft equity or gain more leverage with teams that need more big man. Let's be clear. We've talked about this several times. There's not a lot of big men in the league. There's just not quality big men.
Right.
and there's just not. So teams are in dire straits for centers. So what's the asset that if you could garner, you should in order to get more potential, interest from other teams? Center, because you
Yeah.
always need that. You know that team is going to need center. So you go, oh, well, we got this guy. He's sitting, in the 13th seat on the 15-man bench, but he's there if you want him. We can throw him in. It's not a problem. A-
Yeah.
and so that's where I feel like, you're going to see a lot of movement, I think, closer to the start of the preseason for the basketball. You're going to
Yeah.
start, and look, I'm sorry, but Dame's not going to stop talking about how he wants out. And I don't blame him, because 2 or 3 years ago, people may not remember this. 2 or 3 years ago, Damon Lillard put it out on to the Portland Trailblazer ownership. Get me quality help or I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, we'll do what we got to do. We will. And they got Carmelo Anthony, and they got all these other guys, and they made a run, but then they stopped. It was like the ownership had amnesia to what they promised Dame. Now Damon's like, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. And so for that notion, he's like, I want out.
Yeah.
Y'all told me that the grass was greener. Y'all lied. Y'all
Yeah.
gave me like that bad grass from Arizona. And now like I'm dealing with the dry rot of everything.
Yeah.
He's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm good. I need to go. And so
Yeah.
that's where I think it's going. So sorry, Adam Silver, just because the guy's got more influence
Mhm.
on social media than you do, maybe you should put out more interesting of tweets other than, the NBA could be going to Beijing. So like, just a little
We'll see.
hint.
We'll see. Yeah, no, but as we close out, no, that'll be interesting to see down the line. As we
Oh
close out with the
man.
Sixers, I am glad to see, and I'm glad you brought it up, Joey, that Kobe Carl is joining the
Yep.
coaching staff, and that's going to help the young players in transition. Those guys coming up from the G League, so that's a good move in their
I
part.
really like I really like that. I thought,
Yeah, when
and
I read that, I like that as well.
James can remember this, and I've said this several times. When the Flyers brought up John Stevens from the
Hmm.
Phantoms,
I
I do
remember that.
remember that.
people didn't give him much of a chance, but I loved it because I'm like, this guy has been in the trenches with these young kids. These
Right.
kids are gonna listen to him, and
Yeah.
they're going to follow the lead. Now you're putting Nick Nurse, who knows how to groom young talent, who's got a track record for it. Now you bring up the guy as an assistant coach that these young men have already looked at as a mentor,
And he's
have
won.
already looked at as a teacher, and that's going to work well. That's
And he's
that's going
won.
to work very well.
And he's won on the G League level championship. And also
Hmm.
one other thing as we close out, Nick Nurse, what he's done is most of his assistant coaches were head coaches at one time. So that's a positive in his wrinkle.
Yeah.
So onward and upward, like you said, we'll start seeing some stuff. We're going into August. By the end of August, September, you'll see some moves with the Sixers. I want to transition into the Flyers briefly, if we can. So Tony D'Angelo just finally got moved to the Hurricanes,
Hallelujah.
and I, I don't know, like there was a strained relationship, if you will, between he and Tortorella, and I know John Tortorella as a coach from afar, right? And seeing him coach other teams, it was Rangers and things like that, right? And over the years, and um he has a discipline, right?
Hmm.
I'm seeing like guys that are being let go, guys that are being traded. With some of these guys not buying into his system, and is this also a way? This is for both you, James and Joe, for him to take control of the locker room. I know there's that flyer that wears a C on the chest, but he's like, I'm this, that's the captain, but I'm the head coach. I'm the HC. And do you think when players can't kind of bump heads with him, if you will, that this is him di- displaying his old school tactics, if you will, and staying in charge of the or establishing the culture, I should say, of what he wants for this team.
James, I'll let
Uh,
you kick that off.
yeah, I mean, the one thing I'd say I take out of it is, I think it's a little bit it is a stat. I mean, it is an interesting question because, I mean, John Tortorella. I mean, ever since he first came in here, I always said, like from the very beginning, that's the guy you need to bring like discipline to this team that like will like be on your backside if you don't play well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the one thing I take out of it, but like now seeing the players that were like a little bit butthurt about how many times they were getting
Yeah.
they were getting yelled at and all that. I said, well, long story short, I can tell you that back in the day, like I was in a basketball league that
Mm-hmm.
it was like a JV varsity basketball league, and
Mm-hmm.
my coach would rip us when we don't play well. But
Sure.
that's but the reason why he will rip you is because he wants you to be better. John Tortorella was having that same approach with the Flyers too, because the one thing he wants out of you is that if you don't play well, your ass is going to sit. Plain
Right.
and simple, right? So
Right.
the one thing I look at it is that like everybody can't take the heat about it anymore, which is pretty damn
Mm-hmm.
astounding when you really think about it. It's like like this is probably. I mean, he's not yelling at you just not like he's not like ripping you and like basically he's like not like Ray Rhodes, God forbid, what he said. Like they're coming to rape. I'm not going to go even
Yeah.
further
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm going to be politically correct here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, John Tortorella is trying to bring a culture to this team that the Flyers need more than anything, and
Right.
that is a winning culture. And also, if you're not going to play well, then I will move on from you. Basically, I mean,
Okay.
he's not good with them. I mean, everybody. I think I don't know how much the media can't. The media. I don't know much about it because they ask him a little bit of asinine questions. But the question is that it's not about the one thing I really don't understand about why like players can't stand John Tortorella's system is like it's like we're just asking you just to do a couple things, and if you're not gonna do it right, then
Right.
we have no purpose for you. Joe,
Yeah.
I'll let you take the
Yeah.
helm
No,
on this.
that's interesting, James. Yeah.
So, we've all heard of this adage. It's a players'
Mm-hmm.
league. We've
Mm-hmm.
heard that about different leagues, NFL, NBA, baseball, hockey. We've heard it from time in and time out. It's a
Sure.
players' league. And honestly, I think John Tortorella comes from the logic that that's all well and good, but I'm the coach.
Right.
So I'm the guy that's going to either show you, guide you, and lead you. I'm
Right.
the leader. This isn't the in
Mm-hmm.
my room anymore. That may
Right.
have been the way that the old coaches ran things in this locker room. That is not going to be the way that this locker room is run. Now, look, me and Damon have both taught, and we when you go into a classroom, you have to
Take control.
establish your power.
Yeah.
You have to establish your authority early
Mm-hmm.
because if you start letting the kids and the students run roughshod with whatever they want, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be chaos and you'll
Yeah.
never get it back. Once
Yeah.
you let that happen, you'll never get it back. So John
Mm-hmm.
came in and I appreciate it. He basically
Okay.
said, I will not BS anybody in
Mm-hmm.
this locker room. If I
Yeah.
Well,
think you don't, the first move that he made, I loved, which was I'm stripping the C. You have
Yeah.
to earn it. You have
Yeah.
to earn
Good point,
that
Joe.
C because
From the
listen.
I
gate,
said,
and that C is big in hockey. I know that to be like
well,
that's
Yeah.
that C is big in Philly in hockey. And
okay.
I said this for years about Claude Giroux.
Claude Giroux. Yep.
I said
Oh
this
yeah.
for years. I said,
Yeah.
that C, I don't care if Claude stays on the team. I
Right.
don't. He can stay. The C needs to get taken off of his sweater.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to be shown that you don't just get it because you have a name. You get it because you earn it. And I get it. People are like, well, look at his points and da da. He puts up, as other people have told me about Jalen Hurts and some of his numbers, and it's contradictory. It's a double standard. You can't say, oh, Jalen got that in garbage time. Okay, so if I said that about Claude Giroux, about some of the points he tabulated off of losses, then can I say the same thing there? And they're like, but it's Claude Giroux. And I'm like, yeah, I understand. But garbage time is garbage time if we're going by your theory alone. But
Right.
the thing that I like about John is
Hmm.
that I think he's going to have that ship steady the whole way through this rebuild.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he's going to be
Yeah,
able to
absolutely.
say, you either play my way or
Yeah.
you don't play at all. And Tony D'Angelo was a key example of that. Circling
Yeah.
back to your original question,
Hmm.
Tony D'Angelo and John did not get along because Tony was like, "Well, this is how I play," and
Right.
John's like, "That's not how you should play." But
Right.
that's how I'm going to play. Oh, that's how you're going to play? No, you're not, because you're going to sit on the bench. So it's going to be kind of hard for you to play like that without hitting the ice. He's like,
And
you're
see,
going to bench me? Yeah,
that's some of the
I am.
that's some of the things he did, Joe, this year, benching players with prestige, if you will, on that team at the time. The other thing that I find interesting, and I'm glad you used the analogy, is teaching, because even when I was in Philly subbing, and I thought that was a great analogy. You really have to take command of the class. It's not always going in there, James, like I'm the teacher. No, because then you really
Yeah,
lose
no,
them.
no, no.
I had
Yeah.
I had a technique of how I introduced myself, how I got to know each student and give each one of them a chance to
Right.
speak
Right.
and to get their attention. I think what he's doing, I love what Joe said about steering the ship. When I look at where the Flyers are, and I compare them to where the Sixers were when they started their process, and although the Flyers aren't calling it that, but I think you have a solid coach with a stern establishment of discipline in terms of culture. And I don't think it's a way of, and I'm not in the locker by no means, but I don't think it's a means of, I'm just going to yell at you, I'm going to respect you. But these are the things that we need to do to win, to establish a winning culture. I think they're putting that in place and using him as a good foundation, or his system. Who knows, 3 to 4 years from now if he'll be here as the coach. And I'm really looking this year. I'm going to really take time and look to study the Flyers a little bit more, because I think this is going to be the year when you start seeing the foundation being laid down in terms of the direction they want to go into. So
Absolutely.
I just wanted to bring it. James, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
absolutely.
And,
ahead.
and
Go
I'll
ahead.
say this, like
Mhm.
the idea that C's still dangling out there.
Yeah, I was going to
that's
ask you. No one has a C, right?
That's a no one has.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
So
Mm.
he's dangling that out as a carrot to every one of those young players. You want it? Go fight for it.
Right.
You
Do
want
you give
that
it to
C on
Carter
your
Hart?
sweater?
I mean, there's a possibility that
Because goalies
I mean,
goalies have had
James,
C's before,
I'll ask
correct?
you. James,
Sure.
I'll ask you because you're the hockey kind of historian.
sure.
It's not been that C on the sweater has been rarely given, if any, to a goalie, right? I mean, it's been done a couple times, but
I
not
think
a
it's been
lot.
done a couple of times. You're right, though,
I think it
Joe.
was probably a couple times. I think the last time who did it was Roberto Luongo when he was with Vancouver.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Back in 2000, back during
That's
that.
the last one that I can
that-
recall too.
Hextall didn't
Yeah.
have a C?
No,
No, I
No.
don't think so. No, I
No.
think that was
I'm
I
sorry.
think it was Dave Poland was the captain.
Wow. Good call,
Yeah.
James. Dave Pullen. Yeah.
I was watching that '87 still a couple days ago, and I saw. I think it was Dave Poland who wore
Yeah,
that number six. That
Hextall
scene.
wins the MVP and the Flyers lost the
Conn
Stanley
Smythe,
Cup.
yep.
That's incredible.
yeah,
Yeah.
And-
Before we
and-
go any further, if John Tortorella has a little bit of a
He has a case against Tony D'Angelo?
case against Tony D'Angelo, check out the guys over at check out David on Cherry Esquire Workers Comp, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, criminal law. Give them a call at 610-565-0300. That is www.cherryinjurylaw.com. And if you have a case,
Hey.
Cherry Injury Law is your guy. So again, the number is toll free at 610-565-0300. Tell them that the boys over at Pattison Ave and EOP sent you.
he's still getting calls about James Harden. He's still getting
Now he's gonna
calls
get
from
Tony
fans.
D'Angelo.
Yeah.
Like
jeez.
now he's going to get Tony D'Angelo. He's like, okay, guys, can you stop?
you
I'm
stop
still
already?
catching up from I'm still catching up from the Ben Simmons stuff. Like,
but
um,
real quick before we
but
transition, James, who would you like to see the C on for the Flyers?
Hmm. It's interesting. I mean, let's see. Hmm. Maybe I'll give it to Scott Lawton. I think
Okay.
I think
Okay.
Lawton. I think
I
Lawton deserved it. I think because depending on if Couturier doesn't come back, yeah, I would definitely give it to
To
Lawton.
Lawton.
What
Okay.
about you,
I
Joe?
I see. I don't think Couturier is coming back either. I think he's going to be a
No.
piece that's traded for. We talk about Carter Hart. I think Couturier is going to be traded for assets. I think
Okay.
he's going to be a good piece to be able to trade for assets, and they see that and they know that. And you know what? As a guy who likes Coots, I kind of want to see him go somewhere else and succeed. I really do.
Yeah.
Um, but to say who I would want to get that C,
Mhm.
I'm gonna say Frost. I want Frost
Ooh.
as the
Ooh, that's
captain.
a good one.
I
That's a good one.
actually think
I
I
wouldn't be
think
surprised
he's
if that
going.
happened.
I really think he's going either him or Konechny. I want to see
Mm,
either one take a
Good
step
one.
forward.
okay.
So that's going to be the thing. But I wanted to just real briefly before we move on, Damon. I wanted to like talk on the coaching. So when I played Pee Wee hockey, I
Hmm.
was not a scorer. I was a grinder. I
Okay.
usually was like the bully and everything like that, the goon.
Hmm.
Um,
I can see
there
that.
was there was a time there was a time that I played in a game, and I still do this with my daughter. I still
Mhm.
do this with certain students. He heard what I would say, like so. If he corrected me, and I muttered something under my breath, he'd be like, "What
Mhm.
did you say?" And I go, like he heard what I said. He heard what I said.
Right, right,
He
right,
just wanted me to repeat it clearly. He wanted to make a statement. He's like, "What you
right.
say?" And I'll go, "I didn't hit him low." And so he's like, "Oh, you did. You think I wasn't seeing it correctly? Is that what you thought?" And I'm like,
Right,
"No, I'm 12 years old. I'm
right, right,
arguing with a 40-year-old man. I'm
Oh
12 years
my.
old, and I'm thinking, Coach, I didn't hit him low. Oh, so you just think I imagined that? Like you think I imagined it?" And then he
Mm.
start channeling Fred Sanford and be like, "I'm coming, Glory, I'm coming." And
Elizabeth,
so
I'm coming to join you.
Elizabeth,
I'm coming to get you.
yeah. So I'm like,
He's channeling
okay.
Fred Sanford.
I'm sitting there
Oh man,
going,
that's
"Yo,
good.
Coach."
That's
So
good.
he's like, "You know what? If you think I have a hearing impairment problem, you could sit on the bench right next to me and tell me what you need to say clearly." And he would bench me for the next game or two. Now, look,
Wow.
a 12-year-old
Wow.
kid in a Pee Wee league
Wow.
doesn't normally get
Unbelievable.
benched. Like that's not normally the way it goes. But if you talk
Sure.
back to coach, especially back in the day,
Yeah.
you sit the pine. And
Yeah.
like I agree with John that these are still kids.
Okay.
These are still 19 to 21 to 23-year-old kids. They're still kids. Young
Okay.
And they're
adults,
still trying to
but
get. They're
they're
still trying to be mature too.
Yeah.
That's
right.
the other thing.
So sometimes the older guy that
Hmm.
knows better needs to
Right.
crack the whip and tell the young whippersnapper, "You what did you say? What did
Yeah.
you say?" Even
Yeah.
though they heard him, even though they
Right.
heard him, they want to make sure it's clear. I want you to say it out loud
Right.
because I want you to let everyone know what you think I should be doing.
Right.
Because even despite that, I'm not going to do it because just because you think you're right doesn't mean that it's always right.
Right.
And with me and Dame, you know that
Hmm.
students that are
Especially
16,
because we both
17,
done we
18,
both do high school students.
yeah,
That's a whole nother level.
they think they know better than
Absolutely.
everyone else. And
Hmm.
I go, okay, cool. I'm the kind of teacher who's like, okay, you want to make that mistake? You want to walk on that landmine? Go right ahead.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you do, don't say that I didn't fair warn you.
Right.
And like that's the difference. Is tough love comes
Yeah.
in many different shapes and forms and whatnot. from a 12-year-old getting benched on a Pee Wee team to a 21 or 23-year-old getting benched
Mm-hmm.
in the NHL. It makes no difference if they're trying to learn how to mature and play the game right.
Yeah, and that's well put as we wrap up the Flyers. I just want to say too, one of the things, and James, I'll get your thoughts on this. It seems like, and I don't think Carter Hart's going to be moved. Let me
Right.
just pick it back off with you. And I think the reason is because if Torts has a say, I'm not saying they're going to the playoffs next year, but they're going to play as hard as they can to kind of push the needle, if you will. So this way they'll say, look, if we get here by the year after and start giving that kid experience, then we have something, moving forward. That's why one of the reasons I don't see them moving him.
Yeah.
I predict 12 more wins next year. That's as far as I see the needle moving. I predict
You
12
said how
more
many?
wins.
One more?
12. 12.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They'll move the needle some. They'll move it some.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they'll
Yeah,
they'll
that's
move it
fair.
some. Yeah, about 12.
Yeah, that's fair.
Cool. So, guys, we have a winning streak in our Philadelphia Phillies.
Yes, sir.
Last night, Wheeler was wheeling and dealing. We had the rain delay, which was really interesting to see, Joe and James, because it's literally man on first, 2 outs, count as 1 and 2. And I'm like, let him throw the pitch.
That's what I was saying. That's exactly what I was saying, man.
But then I give the credit. And let me say
Yeah.
something. Shout out to all the grounds people in Pittsburgh, all the grounds people across Major League Baseball.
Yeah, that was a little
Man,
bit too hard.
That's when I see them rolling out the tarp, Joe, and within matter of seconds they have to get this, field covered, and then they don't even give them raincoats, James. They just have their hats on.
Yeah,
and
it wasn't ponchos. I mean, it was covered. They
they
were yellow, but they weren't ponchos.
Give them something. But no, last night was a good win. It was a tough win against the team.
I forgot we talked.
Mr. Food Damon, in your opinion, did Bronny James? Oh yeah, wow, Foods. Yeah, I don't know, Foods. We'll get to that. Good question.
Yeah,
I don't know. James was to read that.
Sorry about that. I was like going through the comments. Schwarbaum is the other one.
Yeah, Schwarber hit the bomb. I mean, and gave us a 2-1 lead, and then Craig comes in and closes out for us. But with this 3-game winning streak, you beat Pittsburgh last night. You beat the Orioles. You win that series. A couple of questions for you guys. Even though Schwarber swarm bombed us last night, how do you guys feel about him still leading off at 184 batting average? This is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a long one. But what do you do with Trey Turner? I mean, he had 2 days off.
Yeah.
The day before. He comes back 0 for 4, 0 for 5 last night. Is he pressing? Is he going to come out of it? And
I think it's going to take more than I mean.
No, you're good. Just throwing it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
this is a loaded one, Joey. That's why this is loaded. Go ahead, James. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think the one thing I take out of it's a little bit. I think you probably have to. Basically, what you have to do is get them away from the game, like for not just a couple games, but maybe like a full week, just to get them away from the game. I really do believe so because it's like, I mean, something that really astounds me about what Trey Turner has done is like, it's just that, like, if you get him away from the game, maybe it'll change his whole complexion of what it means to be on. I mean, I don't mean to like take him away from like 10 games, probably like 5 or 6 games just to get him away from the baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and Darren basically said the same thing I said too. Either him like just benching him for a couple of games here and there, or like he said, I think Turner should be moved down in the lineup, which is true, by the way, But the one thing you have to do is just have to put him in probably a better possibility that you have to like get them away from the game entirely. Just don't even focus on the game. Just get away from it. Just go away. Just go on vacation. To just go with your wife and just just get yourself away
Well,
from the game.
he just had an all-star break.
I know. I know. I know. I hear you, Dame. I hear you loud and
so
clear.
so
I'm not even an athlete. I'm 42, and I don't get as tired as these guys do. And I get it. They're athletes. And
Yeah.
to to touch on what you're saying, Dame, about
Mhm.
Schwarber and Turner. So I said last week that I felt like Turner needed a day off or needed a couple days, and
Right.
they gave him two, and he came out and he struggled again. And I listened to Larry Anderson on the radio the other day, and he said something very interesting to me. He said Turner. What people don't realize is that Turner comes to a new team, gets paid a lot of money,
Mhm.
and that contract, even though it's just a piece of paper and your signature and money in the bank,
Right.
there's pressure that comes along with that,
Sure.
especially in this city.
Sure.
However, I agree with what Larry Anderson, and he echoed kind of what James has echoed, and I don't disagree. Now, I'm going to shake the whole lineup up. And
Mm.
this is where your question with Schwarber comes in with the
Mhm.
leadoff. I'm
Mhm.
shaking the whole lineup up. I'm putting Turner at 9, and
Mhm.
I'm putting Kyle Schwarber at 8. I'm putting him down in the lineup too, and I'm moving up Stott,
Out to
Alec
one.
Baum, huh?
You couldn't start at one.
Putting Stott at 1, putting Alec at 2, putting Bryce at 3 or Costi at 3, whichever, and then Bryce
Mhm.
at 3. So Costi and Bryce could be the 3 or 4, whichever. JT, and then you have like whoever else that they have in with like Marsh and Cave and stuff like that. But I
Mhm.
think if you put Schwarber and Turner at the bottom of the lineup, I think it does two things. I know it's a drastic situation, but
Mhm.
say at 8, if Schwarber's at 8, you could have bases loaded. Last
Mhm.
night they left bases loaded twice
Oh,
against the
Uh
don't
huh.
talk
Cleveland
about that.
series. Against the
Thanks for bringing that
Cleveland
up.
series, they left the bases loaded 3 or 4 times.
Right.
If you had a guy that the other guys are doing the work, and
Mhm.
like 4 through 7, they're doing the work. So if you had bases loaded and Kyle Schwarber coming up at 8, and you get a Schwarber bomb there, and it's a grand slam or a
Mhm.
3-run home run or something, that's a drastic difference. Now, why put Turner at 9? Why not put Turner at 8 and Schwarber at 9? Well, for a reason. If
Thanks for
Turner
what?
gets on,
Appreciate it.
if Turner gets
Thanks,
on,
Dave.
if Turner gets on, and then you turn the lineup over with Stop. Number one, if Turner gets out of the struggle, and even if he's batting 200, 250, he can easily turn that. A 9-hole hitter being batting 250 is really good. For those who don't know, so if he could turn that lineup over
Mhm.
to the Stott, Alec Baum, Castellanos, that could do two things for Turner. Number one, it helps the team because it turns the lineup over. Number two, it could build his confidence because at the 9 hole, you don't have pressure as a hitter. We're not expecting you to bat 300. I've crunched the numbers where his batting average is now,
Yeah.
and what our expectations for what we wanted his batting average to be this year. We wanted it to be hovering around 300.
Right.
Let's be clear. He'd have to bat close to 450 for the rest of the season to get close to 300 average. And I just
Yeah, I
don't see
mean,
that happening. So I think you need to take the pressure off the guy, let him go down in the lineup,
Mhm.
and let him
Okay.
just be
well,
himself. And
and
you got guys that are stepping up like Stott, Baum, Marsh, Castellanos. Harper's starting to warm up a little bit. He's
Mhm.
simmering. So, the idea that take the weight off the guy's shoulders. Take the weight off both Schwarber and Turner's shoulders. Schwarber having all the home runs he's had so far this year and all the home runs he had last year, I feel bad that he doesn't have more RBIs. People are like, well, he's leading off. I understand that. But again, you said he's batting 186. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If he's batting 186 at the 8 hole, but he's still giving you the jacks, you're not going to hate it. You're going to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have someone like Bryson Stott who's batting over 400, like close to 400 with 2 strikes, and he's your leadoff guy,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I agree. Sean Kilran checks in for the first time. He says Stout has to be a leadoff. Topper has to mix things up a bit. So yeah, I agree with that. And also he asked, "What's up, guys? I was hoping Otani was to get traded to see someone, but it's not happening. You see him leaving the Angels. If so, where does he? If so, where is he going?
I think the Angels are
So,
going to.
I think the
I think
Angels
they're
are
gonna
going to
try-
keep him, though, right?
I think they're going to try to keep him.
That's what I'm thinking too.
I think they're going to try to keep him.
yeah,
Had another home run last time.
Yeah, it's like
I've
39 home
heard-
runs.
39. Oh my God, Jesus.
I've heard that the Angels and LA, like they're taking the money from the Writers Guild, from the union from the Writers Guild, and that's why they're on strike because LA's backing up the Brinks truck to keep Otani in LA. So they are willing to do less with the writers and more with Otani. So
Absolutely.
the idea, listen, I said this earlier, a couple weeks ago. What is Otani worth? And I said it would be foolish if he were on the trade block or if he were on the free agent list, it'd be foolish for any owner not to throw their hat in the ring, even if it was like
Well,
ridiculous, even if it was like not going to happen. You know, like even if the Phillies could throw their hat in the ring and like Frank said, but it's not going to happen. Like, okay, I understand that, but you got to throw your hat in the ring.
least you tried.
Deals like Otani, and I can't recall, rarely happen during the trade deadline. Those are at the winter meetings. Those are the type of deals at the winter meetings when breaking news, he signs with, I don't know, the Brewers and they give up.
However, I did hear
now
a
to
trade
2033 or something. I just think that between Jaylen Brown's contract and this, it's like at some point there has to be a cutoff. Because
even Trayvon Diggs too.
It's going to have to be a cutoff.
But I
don't know
knew
when
that was going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know when
happen.
or how, but I'm glad, and good for the Angels if they try to keep him. I want to go back to something you guys are talking about with in regards to Turner. Joe, I like your lineup. I like it for this reason, for basically all of what you stated, that you can have Schwarber at the bottom or eighth at the eight hole, hitting, swinging 184, 186 or whatever. And then Turner takes the pressure off of him. I wouldn't even mind him, trying to put him in the leadoff because I thought that's what they brought him here for. I'll say this. I never felt comfortable with them signing him for 10 years. I never spoke about it. I just never felt comfortable about it. I know he's with the Nationals and won and goes to the Dodgers. But,
we paid a little bit too much for him this year.
Say it again, James?
No, so we paid a little bit too much for him.
I think they did. I think they, not only that, and I don't think you could have gone 5 years. You could have gone because now, okay, let's take back. Castellanos struggled last year, didn't sign a 10-year deal. I think he has a 5-year deal. Turned it around. He's been consistent since day one. Actually, you can go back to the playoffs. He's been consistent, although he's been struggling the past few games. But for the most part of the season, he's been consistent. What was Dave saying, James? I'm sorry.
I don't mean to change the subject. He's like basically asking like, what was your thoughts on what was our thoughts on?
Oh, Kimball ball in the game. Oh, the first save. I mean, it happens. I mean, I didn't like it.
I mean,
I didn't like it. But,
I mean, Brad Lidge is like one of them. I mean, the Brad Lidge saves. It's 2008 was like 1 in a million. Like
I like it.
Shot, 8 million to 1.
But listen, hey, they wind up winning the game, and they wind up winning the game in extra innings.
Most good closers in the league, regardless,
Mhm.
They
If he
rarely
pulls
go
one
perfect.
save, that's all good for me. I don't
They
care.
rarely go perfect. I mean, it's rare.
Right,
That's
Yeah,
why
right.
that's why Brad Lidge was so special, is
yeah.
because it's rare to go perfect. And
Remember,
they could go close to perfect, and kill switch Kimbrel might go close to perfect this year,
Right.
but I want to touch two things real quick on like what Damon was saying um about the 10-year deal and
Hmm.
Otani. So
Hmm.
first, I was on another podcast, another show where an older gentleman, was talking about that he does not like this trend in baseball that they're just handing out 10-year contracts.
Hmm.
Like it's not just the Phillies, like they're just handing out these ridiculously long-term contracts
Right.
for guys that may not. I mean, there's a conceivability that by the time this hits like 8 or 9 years left in the contract, then you're paying them a lot of money. You may
Right.
not be able to move them because
Hmm.
what team is going to pay that amount of money for a guy who's well past his prime? So it's not necessarily the Bobby Bonilla situation, but
Hmm.
it's still a very struggled situation. Now,
Hmm.
that being said, I kind of agree with him that like I would have rather have seen Turner here for like almost a Castellanos kind of deal.
Right.
I would have been more acceptable with that because I get it. You want to keep him here as long as Turner's going to be here because they're good friends. Now, there's two
I mean Harper. I
trades.
mean Lawrence Harper. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's two possible trades that I heard about. One,
Yes.
Andrew Junis and the Bro were
Yeah.
on 97.5 that I heard this, and I wanted to call in, but I like Jamie, so I'm not going to argue with him because me and him tend to get into it, and we might go for an hour. But he he basically said how the trade to go the Phillies trading to go get Juan Soto.
I'm glad you.
Um,
I was going to bring that up.
I
I'm
was
glad
going
you
to
Juan
bring
brought it
that
up.
up. I was going to ask you guys
Juan
about
Yeah, I was
this.
going to bring it
Juan
up. I'm glad he brought it up.
Juan Soto is good friends with Trey Turner and with Bryce Harper.
Mhm.
And they're like best friends, and I'm all for like having friends, and we had
Absolutely.
bird dogs with the Eagles defense and all those bulldogs, so we
Right.
like people being friends. However, I'm not giving up my top prospects for Juan Soto. I'm sorry. I'm
Thank
just
you,
not.
Joey.
I, I'm not.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry. He's not all that in a bag of chips.
Thank
He's
you,
not
Joey.
a good outfielder.
I,
He
you
was a
know,
catcher that you convert. Look, Kyle Schwarber is proof that a catcher in the outfield does not always make the best sense. Why the hell would you do a Juan Soto and pay him extra more money? No, no, no. Sorry. If you give me my druthers, now this is the other proposal that I heard. Now I want to get your take, Damon.
Mhm.
Um, So you would trade Painter,
Mhm.
you would trade Crawford,
Mm.
and you would trade
no,
another prospect with
Mm.
Aaron Nola
Mm.
for Otani.
hmm,
Oh. Painter, Crawford, Nola
And another
for Otani.
prospect. Yep.
Um. Okay. Let me go back before I answer that. So I'm with you. I don't want Soto, and I'm not giving up Crawford and Painter and all those guys for
Nah.
Soto. I just think at some point you have to allow your talent to blossom. You have to, let that homegrown. The thing that we love the most, okay, about that '08. They actually started in '07 because they lost to Colorado in the first round. But that '07 to '12 Phillies run, the thing that you loved about those three dudes is that they were homegrown. They just were. I'm
Yep.
sorry. I'm
Yep.
sorry. Cole. I gotta throw Cole in there, right?
but
I mean,
Hollywood.
Victorino was a Rule 5 draft, and and
Right.
and so was I can't get it that we let go to the Nationals. That we let go to the
Oh.
Nationals.
Um.
oh,
Yeah,
With the right fielder.
yeah. I can't. Oh my God. But
Jason
yes,
Worth.
Jason Worth.
Jason
Thank you.
Worth. There we go.
But I'm just saying. So they were Rule 5. But the three, Rollins, Utley, and Howard. We love that team.
And Chooch.
And Chooch, right? And Chooch. Thank you. I was going to say Chooch. We love them because and Hamels because they were all homegrown. So when I look at this, I'm like, now the other side of Joe's question, Ohtani for all of that. I got to take off one player at least. I want to hold on to Crawford. I really want to hold on to Crawford, Joe. I'm even I need to get down here to see him because I'm really curious about this guy. And I know
I've heard big things about this kid. I've heard people saying he's better than his daddy. And I said, what? I'm like, come on now. You can't say that now. Like,
yeah, that's
like,
I'm
come
like,
on.
So yeah, I would do that, but I would hold on to him. I'm giving you Painter. I'm giving you Nola.
Another prospect.
I'll give you another prospect.
Maybe Marsh or
No, I'm not giving rid of Marsh. I think Marsh is
I can't give up Bone. I can't give up Bone
either. No.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. In order to get something, you got to give something.
Joe.
And so here's my thing with it all. I like Crawford too, and I understand your reservation for it. I do, but
I'm going to drop a bomb that I would throw on Crawford. But go ahead. I'm going to drop a bomb.
I'm going to go back to something that Frank said a couple of weeks ago. Ohtani is the best player in the world.
Okay.
The best player in the world, not the country, not the league, the world.
I get it.
I understand that too, but it's.
So here's what I would do if we're having fun.
Let you go.
So Ohtani's she's the redhead. He's the redhead.
I was just gonna say that.
Ohtani's the redhead. Frank, if you're listening,
we got a crowded chick bar, man.
That's the redhead. Yep.
We got a
blonde. That's the redhead.
Exactly. Here's what I would do, Joe. Are you sitting down, Joe?
I am.
I'm going to give you Marsh. I'm going to give you Painter. I'm going to give you Nola and another prospect, but Crawford. Give me Ohtani and come on home, Trout.
Oh. How?
Yeah, Joey.
Whoa.
Come on home, Trout.
Oh, wow.
You realize what? Whoa.
Yeah. You want to play? Let's go. Let's go, Joe.
Whoa.
Let's go.
Whoa.
Why not?
Slow. I'm glad I'm sitting down. I would have fell off. You realize that the amount of salary that would be on this roster.
Hey man, once you hoist that trophy,
to what Jerry Jones pays for the freaking shitty Dallas Cowboys stadium. That's over $1 billion in salary.
But it's coming back. You're going to win chips. The place is going to be packed. The parking lots are going to be packed, Joe. You got Ohtani, Trout.
You're going to need a bigger stadium. You're going to need a bigger stadium to hold all those people.
Yeah, you need new revenue for this stadium.
The fire marshal's going to be busy making sure that there's not fire code violations.
You're right, Darren. Hey, Darren, they might take him back. He knows how to hit now. I'm just saying. Darren said they're not taking Marsh back. I know we're having fun, but man, we're just
having fun.
That would be like
I'll do a return. So if you took Marsh out, right, and so I'll still keep Trout in that. But you took Marsh out and you got rid of Schwarber and
I was going to say
Castellanos or something like that. That's still going to be a stout lineup because your outfield's going to look like Marsh, Trout, and Ohtani, or Marsh, Ohtani. I'm sorry, Marsh, Ohtani, and Harper. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
let that be.
Yeah, and then Reese is coming back. Then you got Reese coming back. You got Reese back, James.
I'm good. Like
Uh-oh.
again, I still go with Schwarber and Castellanos gone and Painter and Nola and all that. Like despite all
Still
that,
have to play
you're
at the
still
lake.
going to need a fire marshal to
Bedlam
make
at the
sure that
lake.
like that's right. That's right, James.
You
There's
have to
going to
play at
be
the
like
link.
a
Darren
viewing
said I have to
party
play
at
at the
the
link.
link.
Yeah.
Right. We'll just
Good
make
stuff,
a bridge.
Darren. Yeah.
We'll just make a bridge.
Just
Just
make a
Yeah.
bridge.
we'll have it where there's
Oh
a
my
projection
God.
screen, and we'll get like a bit. You know the monitor they just put in the bank. We'll get like a
Yep.
bigger one for the link.
That
I
would be
mean,
insane.
they're not paying for electricity. Let's be real. They're not paying
Yeah.
for electricity at the link. So just build a freaking big ass screen and
That
just
was
have like a bridge. Just have like a bridge so people could go over to the link and watch over there. I live a couple blocks away from the stadium. If you have both of those stadiums, which you would if you had that team, if you have both those stadiums packed, I would feel like an earthquake tremor from here.
that would be insane. That would be
It's
I
insane.
nuts.
mean, like people would not be able to park their cars on the street
Nah,
because of the vibration.
No, man.
nah. It would be. It
That
would.
would-
It would. It would. It would be insane. But looking at this team right now is constructed. James, we're heading towards the trade deadline coming into this week. Do you think Topper's going to do something? Do you think he's going to make that trade, be it a big one, a small one? Because by the way, Bryce has been looking good at first base.
Yep.
Can't complain there. He's been looking solid. And I still think we need a right-handed bat. I know they're going to always go depth, but Anthony Dominguez came back, but I know we're always going to go depth as far as pitching. The kid Sanchez looks good as the fifth starter, so I don't know what they would do there. So what do you guys think in terms of what the team is looking for, and will they go ahead and make a move this coming week on a position player?
James, you go.
Yeah. I mean,
James, yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I think I don't think there's like a lot of key pieces that they need to. I mean, like obviously, like you just mentioned, Dame, like Harper being at first base, you don't need like a first baseman.
Yeah.
Like, so that Goldschmidt thing goes out the window.
Sure.
Maybe you get like a third or fourth starter. I mean, but then the one guy I was looking forward to seeing that the Phillies were going to try to get was Lucas Giolito from the White Sox, because I always liked his like fundamentals and all that.
Sure.
But if Dylan Cease is still there, maybe you could bring him in. I don't know, man.
I keep hearing Cody Bellinger's name coming up.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Bellinger's name keeps on bringing up too. Sean Kilren brought that up too.
Yeah.
About Bellinger. So, yeah, but here's the other thing too. If you put Bellinger there, then we're gonna do with Rojas. I mean, you got obviously you got
and Bellinger's
Good stuff,
not a
James.
right-handed
Yeah, it's
at
a good
bat.
point.
He's a
you know what I mean?
So that's
Say it
the
again,
thing.
James.
I like
I'm saying it again,
Bellinger.
Joe. I'm sorry.
So Bellinger's a good at bat, but I mean a good fielder, but he's a left-handed bat. So it doesn't solve like we discussed last week. Like it solves one problem with a better outfielder than Rojas. Not that I don't like Rojas, but he still needs to be seasoned a little bit more. And Jake Cave too. But
Shout out to Jay Cave. Shout out to Jay Cave with that beautiful catch the other night.
Great catch.
Shout out to Jay Cave.
Great catch.
But I would honestly say like the Bellinger thing makes sense on one half of the diamond, doesn't make any sense on the other half of having another left-handed at bat. I have been hearing a couple rumblings from interdivision or with the Marlins and with the Mets. The Braves aren't talking to us. They've completely hung up the phone. And Nationals, but the person the team that I'd like to go and poach, and I'm not entirely sure of their whole roster, but they have a young team. The team that I'd like to kind of go and poach is Oakland. Because Oakland is kind of sinking. And I'm not talking literally, although that could be happening too. But the feeling that I have is I don't feel like Dabrowski is going to make a huge splash. And you got to think about this. Last year, he could have. But look at the moves that he made. He brought in Stosa, he brought in Marsh.
Yep.
He brought in some really underrated talent that really did well for us in the long haul.
Right.
I see that same thing happening this year. I feel like it's a guy we didn't know who Marsh was. We didn't know who Sosa was. We do know who they are now. But I
Right.
think Dabrowski's such a smart, savvy guy that he's going to um, go to these teams and really say, I have an eye on some of these guys that if they come into this system, even think about it this way, and there might be a right-handed at bat, an outfield right-handed at bat that we may not know of because they might be struggling with their batting in the system that they're in. You get them in the K Long system,
Hmm.
and we've seen what Marsh has done and Sosa has done with that K Long system. So
Yeah.
I think Dabrowski has the confidence in the coaching ability and the coach's talents to make whatever player he picks up, big or
Hmm.
small, strive. And to go back into like the Otani uh, dream sequence,
Hmm.
um, in that same regard of with the Kevin Long thing,
Hmm.
there's not much improvement you can do to Otani's swing, but Kevin Long
Right.
would be like, if Kevin Long could make Otani 10% better than what he
Hmm.
already is, I
Hmm.
don't
Right.
even know. I don't even know. Like, just hand the boy the MVP trophy every year
As they
in that
say,
circumstance.
in that yard, man, he would rate. Real quick before we wrap up with the Phillies, Dave Yarnold had posted. I know James was trying to read it about
Tommy Pham, yeah.
yeah, I did hear that as well. Tommy Pham from the Mets, but
Yeah. That's the interdivisional conversation I've been hearing too.
yeah, so we'll it's interesting, but I like the fact that the Phillies are starting to win again. It's a shame because if Turner could step up a smidgen, just a smidgen, and we know we don't have Reese, but if he could step up a smidgen, he will
Right.
solve a lot of problems, and hopefully he could turn it around.
Well,
Fellas,
that's why I feel like if he's moved down to the 9 hole,
I like
the expectations aren't so high, and
yeah.
taking some of that pressure off might get him to loosen up a little bit.
Yeah, and I like Joe. I like your lineup. I like that. I think the other thing the Phillies can't is the other thing the Phillies can't hang their hat on anymore is they were saying, well, we were winning with Schwarber in the starting lineup, but you had lost 4 in a row and actually lost I think 4 out of the 5 series before winning the series against the Orioles.
You
So
know, I before we wrap up the one about with
yeah,
baseball, I wanted to just note this for all Philadelphia Phillies fans. We, when we go and we want to try, the target is to go back to the World Series. When you
yeah,
go to the World Series, you're going to play the best team in the American League. Just keep in mind, in the last month, we've played two of the top teams in the American League and beat
Tampa
them
and Baltimore.
in series. Tampa and Baltimore. So
Hmm.
I don't care if they still stay there or not. But what Ricky Batalco brought this up. We're in their heads. Now
Hmm.
we're in their heads. We've planted the seed that if we see them in the World Series, y'all better be scared.
Yeah, no, it was a good, and that was a good series against the Orioles. So yeah, and I think that if they could, if find a way, depending on what move Dabrowski makes, I like our pitching. I love watching Suarez. I think Nola will hopefully he'll continue to play well, and Will is dealing, and like I said, Sanchez is holding his own. So we'll hopefully they'll finish up. And I'm gonna catch a game. I got to catch a Phillies game this August. I'm gonna take my son, so I haven't been to one
Definitely.
yet. I
Well,
got to get down
the
there.
Angels are coming to town in the ending part of the August. That might be a good matchup. Like
Okay, yeah,
to see
I'm definitely,
Otani.
I
I'm
definitely
tempted
got
to
to
I
go
get
to
might
one
down
of
there.
those games too.
I might go
Glad you
and take
mentioned that. Yeah,
Otani. I might go take Otani to a bar and get him hooked up with a redhead.
yeah, he's gonna take it. Yeah, taking it live.
Yeah.
So, fellas, this
Yes,
past week,
sir.
something special happened in the city of Philadelphia. Um, the Eagles training camp open. And you guys know I'm still an avid listener of sports talk radio, and it's one of the things they talk about is how training camp was in yesteryear. I never made it up to Lehigh. I did intend. My
Ever?
brother-in-law and I, we had planned on going, and then we didn't make it. And then after that, they moved, back down to the link. I've been down since they moved to the link. I've been to when Chip Kelly was coach. I've been to one of his practices at the old
Franklin Field.
Franklin Field. I was there, and then I've been to a couple of the practices at the link. It's okay. I'm not, I know they're having one next Sunday, and it's for charity, which is a great thing. One, and I think you guys, I don't know, you guys may have answered this, but I'm curious. Have you guys ever been to a training camp up at Lehigh? If so, what would your experience like? And do you feel training camp is the same? We know it. We know the league rules have changed it, but does it still feel the same as it has in years past? James, I'll start with you.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit of a quick story that I always talk about this time of year at training camp. So I was probably around 9, maybe 10 years old. This is like in the summer of 2005, right before the TO situation happened. So here's the kicker, though. So I had the privilege enough to meet TO in that training camp year, and I have an autograph signed football. My cousin Brendan used to be took me to a lot of those practices to get signed footballs from players and all that. Like he's did a fantastic job with that. So I had T.O.'s autograph, but here's the thing that makes it even more astounding. It was the same day as the sit-ups in the driveway happened.
Well, he went nuts on the ninja.
Yep, everything that same exact day. It was the same exact day.
He got suspended an hour.
And he got suspended an hour later.
I remember. So take us back. So that wasn't up at Lehigh. That was in Philly, right?
No, it was in Lehigh.
That wasn't Lehigh. Right. They were still up in Lehigh because Andy was a coach. That's right. So you're up there. You get his autograph. Did you feel any type of tension while you were up there? Any type of?
No, man. I gotta. I mean, everybody. I mean, a buddy of mine asked me, so, "What'd you say to T.O.? Why did he do all this stuff? What'd you tell him? You suck or anything?" I was like, "No, I didn't say a effing word to him. I didn't say a single word to him."
It's his fault.
James Scorza is the Dallas killer and the T.O. kicker.
The T.O. musher. The T.O. mush.
Yeah, he sent T.O. packing. I understand.
God is my witness. I swear on my life I didn't say anything bad to him. Honest.
I remember that day.
Honest to God.
John Clark, he was doing the sit-ups on the lawn. And somebody was like, he needed some
Let me
landscaping
get John Clark
on
the line. I'm going to get John Clark on the line. Get an exclusive here.
Wow. So that was the same day. Yeah, that's a good one, man.
Yeah, that's always a great story.
So by the time you got home, he's doing the sit-ups on the lawn.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. I just saw him on the driveway and I said, wait a minute, I just saw him like 15 minutes ago. Like signed an autograph from me, and out of nowhere, it was the same. It was the same exact day.
Wow,
I'll never forget it.
That's classic.
It's a classic story. I always talk about.
For sure.
Yeah,
that's what I remember. Joey.
I've never been up to the Lehigh one. I always wanted to go.
Oh wow, really?
I've been I always me and TK, we went to a couple of the open practices at the link. We had the privilege one time for one of the open practices. Tom's wife, Erin, got us suite tickets for the open practice, so we were able to like hang out in the suite. And, it was really, really cool. But both of us kind of had the feeling we're getting amped up. We can't help it. We're getting amped up by seeing like pads hitting and players going and running and football coming back and the field and the smell of the grass. Me and him both wanted to go onto the field. Like we wanted to suit up. Yeah. And we're like, we're ready. Let's go. And so during this particular open practice, as part of the ticket package that we got of being a part of the suite, we were able to go down for like field access. And we went down to the field, and this was when Hank Basket was still on the team.
Hank Basket.
Wow. Hank Basket. was on the team, and when he was still dating and his
The
now
wife.
wife. Yeah. So I go over to Hank and I'm like, "Yo, Hank, have women weakened legs yet?" And he got
No, Joey.
Tom
Oh
just
Women weak
no!
his legs, Rock.
Tom, Tom just walks in front of me and goes, "I can't believe you said that to him." And I said, "Listen, he's married to a playboy. What the hell did you expect me to say? Hey, yo, Hank, good catch last game." Like, no, dude, I just want to know. Since you are married to the woman that you're married to, or since you're going out with the woman that you're going out with, have women weakened your legs? I gotta know. Like, are
God. Oh
playboys
my!
like are playboys like superhero women in comparison to
Yeah.
like regular women? Do they weaken legs more? Do they have like superpowers to give
Yeah.
you like super
Oh
strength in your
man!
legs and arms? I don't know. But then, so we're on the field, and I said that to him, and Tom pulls over, and he yells for the guy that we now have back, Dennis Kelly, and
Yeah,
he's like, Tom had his Kelly jersey on,
right.
Dennis Kelly jersey on, so he's like, "Yo, Dennis, Kelly brothers for life, man," and I'm just like, and you criticized me for saying what I said to Hank Pastor. That guy's a second string lineman. He's like, but he shares my name, man. What marks do you know
Well,
share your name?
he's back too. He's
Yeah.
back with the Eagles.
So
Dennis Kelly is
so
back with the Eagles. Yeah.
so it's an interesting concept. Now to
Wait,
answer your question of whether or not it's as cool, I
Mhm.
don't know how Lehigh was. I know from stories from Tom and
Right.
uh and James that it was very like up close and personal, whereas
Right.
the link in the
yep,
stadium wasn't.
Yeah.
yep.
Outside of that specific situation, but I think that's probably one of the reasons why they revoked field access. But during the open practices, but the idea that you know, I think it still gets the juices going for
Sure.
fans, and I
Sure.
think it's
Absolutely.
still you still feel like I'm that close to Jalen Hurts, or I'm that close to
Mhm.
AJ Brown, or I'm
Mhm.
that close to and listen, these guys, I gotta admit, they are humble within their fame. Jason
Yeah.
Kelsey with what he did at the draft and what he did at the beach a couple of weeks ago. These guys are just people, but they want to embrace this fandom and this fan
Mhm.
base, and it's exciting to see what's coming down the road.
Yeah.
I know you're gonna get into other stuff, Dame.
No, no, you that I thought that was James. You were about to say something. That was beautiful, guys. Thanks for sharing. James, you were about to say
Yeah,
something.
absolutely. I was gonna say, speaking of Kelly, we gotta talk about the Kelly Greens, man. They're coming back.
Oh yeah, the Kelly Green. They're going to announce it this week when they're going to
The 31st. Yep,
yeah,
9
when they're
a.m.
going to unveil them. So, um,
Dude, I gotta be that. I gotta admit,
yeah,
I wasn't born. Obviously, I wasn't born for that
yeah,
era.
yeah.
But the one thing they did do right is that my dad always told me you have to get that crest right with the eagle. If
Mhm.
that is how the jersey is, that jersey is gonna be beautiful, man.
Well, what he did was, now that I think about it, it's actually a smart marketing tool on Laurie's part. He held out for as long as he could because now he knows that's going to be another selling item. How the timing of it is just so perfect. You got a team coming off a Super Bowl run, looking to do another Super Bowl run,
Yeah,
and embracing an historical jersey. So that's good. Shout out to the Eagles marketing team on that
yeah,
one.
man. I mean,
Um,
You know, I want to say something before because you bring
yeah,
up
yeah,
about
yeah.
the Super Bowl run, Dame. I want so Dame and to James's dad Joe, like for me and James especially, but
Mhm.
me and James are kind of spoiled Eagles fans in my mind. I thought about this a lot this
agreed.
week
Agreed.
because prior to what was it 2008 or no
Mhm.
2004 with
Mhm.
that last Super Bowl run against New England. Prior to
Yeah.
Right.
2004, the Eagles haven't sniffed the Super Bowl
Right.
since
80.
1980.
Yeah.
Right.
So the idea that like people like Damon and your dad were like tortured by that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you think about since 2004 in me and James's era,
Hmm.
the
Right.
Eagles have been to the Super Bowl 3 times and have won one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that kind of mentality for the older generation, you're like, you kids are spoiled. You don't know what struggle is with the Eagles, and that may be true. And with Jalen Hurts and this roster and the potential for this,
Hmm.
James, I got to say, we may not know what that pain feels like in our lifetime.
Well, we could probably we're kind of spoiled with a lot some of the Phillies sports teams. Like Flyers
Yeah,
for good a prime example because like the Flyers haven't won and God knows when. Obviously, it's going to be 50 years this coming year for that
right.
Stanley Cup. But yeah, you're absolutely right because we haven't had the chance to see a lot of success in
Hmm.
especially with the Eagles. But I mean, I think now now more than ever, I think it's going to be that the Eagles are going to be like the New England Patriots darling of of the
I,
NFC now.
I'll even say, James, and Joe, you interesting point. I don't look at it as you guys are sport. I look at it as I felt like, if anything, yeah, we struggled through those years. I mean, like I became an Eagles fan. I was a kid. I think I was 8 when Dick Vermeil was coaching, and then it led me to their first Super Bowl against the Saints, and then the Marion Campbell years, which was the dog years, and then
Thank
we
the
got Buddy.
Cowboy Killer for that, Fuji.
Yeah. And Buddy brought excitement. Didn't win a playoff game, but then we had Randall at the same time. And we moved into co-tight Ray Rhodes and then
Right.
Reed. But for you guys and me too, because I was around, I felt like we all struggled through those NFC championship losses. I mean,
Yep.
you think back to when we lost to the Rams and Randall was looking at the tunnel, you just knew they was going to come back and win it, right? They did get back, but they just couldn't get over the hump. They finally do it, and then we know what happened. I
Yep.
look at this team, James, and you said compared to the pay. I compare this team to the Andy Reid teams. I expect this team to be back at the very least NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
At
I
the
mean,
very least, I expect them in the NFC Championship game,
yeah,
if
and
not the
it's a
Super Bowl.
yeah, and to piggyback what you just said there, Dame, it's a
Mm.
very good strategy because the one thing I look at it too is that with the Patriots because like all these years they would win, like they would be like nobody would be
Close to them.
close to them
Yeah.
exactly. That's how I look at it with this Eagles team too, is because besides besides maybe probably the Cowboys or maybe the 49ers, depending on who the quarterback is,
Right.
like we're basically like we can like basically go smooth sailing. I mean, obviously, look, think about it. We got, I mean, Rodgers is with the Jets now.
Yeah.
I mean, all the players that were in that NFC helm is on the opposite side now. So,
No, and that's a good
so
point. And to what you were saying, if you go back to those Patriot teams at the time, their division, think about this, Joey. They had the Jets, who
Mhm.
wasn't good, still not good. Buffalo,
Absolutely
who's way better but was not good.
right.
Of course, Miami wasn't
Yep.
good. So they had now this is nothing to take away from what the Patriots did. We're not okay, aside from the cheating, whatever, they
Yeah.
won. But to be in a division where you were the elite, whereas though the Eagles in our division, hey, say what you want, you know,
Russell Wilson. Yep.
Russell
Forgot
Wilson, right? And to say the least, you still have the Dallas Cowboys. You still have
Yep.
an up and coming, Giants team. So you still have some competition within your division, let alone your conference. Joe, your thoughts on that?
I never want to say the NFC or any conference is a walk in the park. I never want to say that. And that's why I've said when Frank has said the first 9 games we're gonna go 8-1 or 9-0.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I like listen, I like
It's a
that
possibility.
logic.
I mean,
No,
there is a
I understand
possibility.
it. No, see,
I understand what
understand
James
it.
said, though. I know what he meant.
I understand it's a possibility. I'm just saying I don't discount um other NFC teams just because I should. Like,
Mhm.
you don't want to just say because we're better on paper that we're going to win. And I never want to do that. So I give we have to play to see where we have to improve. And I love
Right.
what everybody, if we're talking about how training camp has started and what's been said, I love what Jalen and a lot of the players have echoed. And that
Mhm.
is last year was last year. That's over. Those guys
Right.
are gone. That team is gone. This is a new year. It doesn't matter what we did last year. It doesn't matter what happened last year. This year is this year. And I love that because if you take the mentality that you can rest on your laurels from last year and think that all these NFC teams are just going to roll over and die for you in the first 9 games, sorry. I just don't buy that. I think now more than ever we have the target on our back more so than we ever did before. And I think we have to uh embrace
Embrace
it,
it. Yeah.
but I think we have to compete to that level too. I think there's a difference between embracing and just saying, they'll roll over and die eventually, or embracing it and saying, oh, you think you're going to get us? No, well, you're not going to get us. Don't worry about that. But I love what I'm hearing so far from these guys at the training camp. I really do.
You-
Yeah.
Let me.
So
I
go ahead,
don't
James.
mean.
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Yeah,
James.
you're good. No, but what I was saying was, like, look at how the Eagles tried to comprehend last year's loss to the 49ers loss, too. Because, like, the 49ers did, like, the only thing they're talking about, I mean, even like 8 months later, they're still harping about, oh, if Purdy didn't get hurt, you guys would have lost and all that. And we're like, okay, we're talking about 7, 8 months ago, and you guys are still pissing and moaning about what happened with your quarterback. Let it go. Let it go.
What and I'm not putting this out there for injury. I don't wish injury on any
No,
player,
I
any
don't
sport.
either.
What's your over and under that Purdy non-injury finishes the season as a starting quarterback
It's a good question. It's a really good question.
This season, you mean?
this season? Does
Right.
Purdy finish as a starting quarterback? Not injury. I'm not talking about. I'm just talking about just play. Do you think he finishes the season as a starting quarterback for the 49ers?
Well, he's not going to play this season. He's
No, he's
he's out.
cleared.
Oh, he's cleared.
Purdy's cleared.
Then no, then
Really?
no.
Yeah,
I don't
Purdy
think
got
he's.
cleared.
Oh
I don't
wow.
think he's going to play the whole season.
So I'm with
I don't
you.
think
I
so
think
either.
I
Go
think
ahead,
the
Joe.
hype is just that. I think it's just James had fired at me, and a lot of people had fired at me the first season that Jalen Hurts played, or first
Yeah.
half season Jalen Hurts played. Everyone's like, "Ah, no one's got tape on the kid. That he's getting lucky, and
Mm-hmm.
wait till they get tape on him, and then he'll come down to earth." That never happened. But do I think Purdy?
I'm a
Do I
believer
think
now.
Right? Does Purdy have that same cachet? No. I
No,
think he's going to come down to earth because I don't think he's as talented as Jalen Hurts. And
that's my point.
that's my statement of the year. Like he's not as talented. There are no quarterbacks. Let me make this very clear.
Mm-hmm.
On July 28th, or yeah,
29th.
29th. On July 29th, 2023, let me make this very clear for everyone to
Mm-hmm.
hear. Jalen Hurts is better than every quarterback in the NFL.
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 Oh man.
I said it.
Wow.
I said
Okay.
it. I stand by it.
Okay. So let me
It's
say
my
this.
You're not
ride.
wrong.
It's my
Let, let,
ride or die, and I'm not giving up on that.
I look at this. Let me say this about Purdy. The reason why I raised the question because I'm so sick of 40. A guy I work with is a 49ers fan. Cool dude. And I said, you guys are just whining and complaining. And he said something. I forget what he said about the Eagle fan, but we were just. It wasn't nothing malicious. But the one thing it's Purdy. He's a good story, but now they have tape on you. Okay, they know what to do. The difference between Jalen and we saw it. I kept saying all I needed Jalen to do is just get the ball out. Well, he did that and some last year. The other thing now is when they think let's put it all out on the table. Teams do not like the Philadelphia Eagles. One, they don't like our coach. They think he's a little brash. Okay, that's fine. They don't like the fact that the Eagles do the push tush. They don't like that. And they don't like the fact that this team is consistently good. Okay, let's be honest. Now, if I wasn't a fan of the Eagles, I probably feel the same way as well. I say all to say, now the people are trying to say, can Jalen Hurts live up to what he did last year and also the contract? I say, yeah, Joe. I say yes. One, because this dude, his work ethic is second to none. The other thing is, from what I'm hearing, he's added more wrinkles to his play in terms of you're going to see more stuff out the backfield. They really want to reduce those rush yards, James, and I'm with that, so that he could be more effective. And I let me just say that I dig what Sirianni's saying. He's like, we didn't pay him to be, and I'm paraphrasing, to live in the pocket. They're not taking that run ability away from him. Like Donovan was like, I don't want to run. It's like, no, that's part of who you are. We just want less of it, and not with 5-degree weather in Chicago where you can hurt your shoulder. So if we can find a way to lessen some of those rush yards, get them to the running backs out the backfield, that helps him tremendously, and then use him more so in the red zone if he has to run.
I gotta chime in. Okay. For those people who feel like that Jalen Hurts cannot live up.
This is not me. This is not me, Joe.
No, I know. I'm not coming at you. I'm
just saying.
I'm responding to your statement that other people have made.
Mm-hmm.
For those people who are still critics, that now that he's gotten paid, he's going to be less of a quarterback. Let me be clear. The last 3 years, you fools were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to keep being foolish. You're going to keep playing this card. You're going to keep saying, oh, well, he's going to come down to earth. He's not going to be as good as he was. Mm-hmm. Okay, you keep playing that card. Because me and Jalen and the ride or die fans that were Jalen, we're going to be sitting on the other side telling y'all you were wrong. And we don't want to hear any saltiness when you guys are like, well, it could have happened. Yeah, it could have happened. And the sky could have been purple and I could win the Mega Millions tonight. Yes, I understand that. But guess what? Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the NFL for one major reason, is that he is not peaked yet.
Yes.
He's not peaked yet.
I like
for all those people, it's like he's hit his ceiling. How did he hit his ceiling? He didn't even have the weapons that he has now in the running backs. He doesn't have the consistency with the offensive set with the players that he has now. It's his third season in this offense. You don't think he's going to thrive even more? Look at how Brady thrived when he was in an offense long enough. James brought up that this could be the New England Patriots. I
like the comparison.
Yeah, I go back to like a Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels was Tom Brady's personal quarterback guru. If Brian Johnson is the next Josh McDaniels, where he'll never be a good head coach, but he'll always be a good quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, then let that be and he gets the best out of Jalen Hurts, just like McDaniels did out of Brady, then so be it.
And Joe, just to piggyback real quick, Kelsey likes what Brian is doing with the offense. I read that this week. He's liking the offense.
Well, I like
Kelsey likes it. We love it.
I like to make a side note to my man Nick Sirianni. Nick, me and you are both two peas in a pod in some ways. We're very emotionally driven guys. We get fired up very easily. Don't use the megaphone, dude. You don't need the megaphone.
Yeah, Joe, I didn't like that.
Don't use
James,
the megaphone.
Did you hear about that, James?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't like that. Talk to me, Joe. What's up with that?
We're both. You listen. We're both loud enough where you could hear us. I don't have to have Mike on for Damon and James to hear me. Like this doesn't need to. You don't need the
Doesn't have
Yeah.
to
megaphone.
go up to 11.
No,
I so
no.
so so I'm one, and I'll cut you off, Joe. When I heard that, I'm going. I frowned. I immediately frowned. As a man, I wouldn't want someone. I can hear you. Like that's not going to. I get his intent, fellas. You keep making. They said it. They said it because they kept making mistakes at the line of scrimmage. I get it. You want to correct that, but there's a way to do it to get the person's attention. That megaphone, I don't know, man.
You know what it reminds me of? If you ever seen some of these movies that and it's like an old cliche kind of scene where the person is running behind a truck and the coach is like sitting in the back of bed of the truck with a
Yeah,
megaphone saying, "Come
yeah,
on, move
yeah,
faster! Come
yeah,
on, move faster!" That's what it reminds me of. And I'm
yeah.
like, you don't need
Yeah.
that. You don't
Now,
need to be that
Yeah.
guy. And like we speak loud enough for people to hear us, and that in my mind, is
Yeah.
definitely
It's a little
is
bit odd, but
definitely
it's
enough.
all good. It's a little bit
Yeah.
odd.
that's when the reporter has to raise that question. How do you guys feel? A few things. I'm hearing great things about Jalen Carter, James. Um, hearing great things about him. Hearing great things about Nolan Smith. How do you guys feel? Now he's supposed to come back this week. Hassan Reddick has been out with the groin injury. That's the only
Yep.
injury
Oh no.
minor that we've had so far. Knock on wood. How do you guys feel
I,
about what you're hearing about Carter, Smith, and Reddick's groin injury?
I love that the one of the guys that does and his name is eluding me, that does the Birds podcast, um basically said it's the first time in a long time, and he's covered Eagles for 30 years,
Mhm.
that he doesn't recall ever the Eagles ever coming into training camp with nobody on the pup list, which is amazing. And if everybody has looked around the league, people are getting carted off the field, even if they're
Joe
minor
Burrow,
injuries.
Yep,
Joe
Joe Burrow,
Burrow was carted off.
Johnson,
Jalen
Garner
Ramsey.
Johnson,
Jalen Ramsey
Jalen
too.
Ramsey.
Jalen
Yep.
Ramsey, Garner Johnson, CJ Garner
Yep.
Johnson.
CJ Gardner Johnson.
So,
Yep.
so you got to keep in mind how Nick runs camps. In Nick, I trust in that logic. The things that I have heard, however, from some of these guys that have been around, like a Fletcher Cox, like a Brendan Graham, like a Jason Kelsey, like a Lane Johnson, these aren't small names. These are the core four. These are the four horse Eagles. Like these are the God of this team. They have said outwardly, first about Jalen Carter, this guy is special. Like
Okay.
Lane Johnson said, I feel bad for the person he's going to go up against because he's going to be a handful. He's going to be a handful because he even said that he's been caught. He's like, there's no way guards are going to be able to keep up with him. There's just no way because we've heard that that guard position between Kelsey and Lane has been filled temporarily. It's a position battle between the guy that we just drafted this year, Steam, and Jurgens. And
Jurgens,
so
yeah.
so one of the things that Lane and Kelsey are doing is really coaching up Jurgens. And Jurgens is a really great guy, and so is Steam. But they eventually the defense have swapped Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter every once in a while to face them to see what the look would look like. So Lane and Kelsey are helping that guy, whether it's Steam or Jurgens, to figure out how to attack Jalen Carter. Well, Lane Johnson said he threw everything at these kids to try and help them against Jalen Carter, and Jalen Carter still picked them apart. And I said, he's like, I don't got anything. I don't even know how you block Jalen Carter. And that's Lane Johnson. That is one of the best tackles in the league talking. And he doesn't know how to block Jalen Carter. How do you expect any other tackle in the league or any other guard in the league to figure that out any faster? This guy and all the dogs and everybody's coming swole. I mean, they're all in shape. Jalen Carter's put on 10. Jalen Hurts has put on 10 pounds of muscle from what I've heard, and I'm like, okay,
And Jordan
I hope
Davis
that
has
does.
lost a lot of weight. Jordan Davis
Yeah,
Jordan
is
he
Davis,
looks really. He looks good, man.
Jordan
He
yeah,
looks really good.
Davis.
he does.
I don't know if this number is even accurate because it sounds ridiculous. He's down to 315.
What was he
He's
before, Joe?
lost. He was 340.
Mm,
He's lost 30 pounds, like close to 30 pounds.
nice.
I,
You could
I
tell. You could
I'm
tell.
like,
You could tell he lost weight. It's
I'm like,
obvious.
what did he do?
And he
And
didn't just
so
lose weight. You could tell his
he
muscle
put muscle.
too. They toned him
Yeah.
up.
Well, here's the thing. So I said this a couple of weeks ago. All the Bulldogs on the Eagles defense have
Mhm,
had competitions, inter
mhm.
squad competitions. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Nolan
Nolan
Smith
Smith
Nolan
and
Smith. Yep.
Jacoby Team, they've
and the
all
Kobe
been
team.
doing weight training competitions.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis have been doing squat competitions. From what I heard on a guy, there's a guy who I follow on Twitter who's like an avid nerd about bulldog, all things bulldogs. I have to make an
Right.
introduction to James and him and Freddie Burns. But
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
guy's like an avid nerd for all things Bulldogs, and so he still follows the Bulldogs into the Eagles. He in fact he was one of the lead guys that came up with that Bulldog, that Georgia G with the Philadelphia Eagles wings coming out of it
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that University of Georgia put on their website.
Hmm.
So this guy basically said that Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, Jalen's leading. They're in a squat competition, and right now Jalen Carter is squatting close to 650 pounds. Now, I want you to understand something, folks. Jalen Hurts, who is our quarterback, is squatting 600.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've
Yep.
seen that. I've seen him
So
do it.
So, to say that this team's not stacked, swell, and strong, good luck, folks, because it's going to be hard to guard these guys. And I've heard the same. Then I heard Nolan Smith is faster. He's ran a faster 40 time in
Than
training
he did
camp than he
before.
ran at the combine.
Mm, mm,
I said,
mm.
"Excuse me." I'm
Yeah.
like, that was fast before. What did he do now? They didn't release it. They just said that statement. I'm like, well, what was it? I want to know. I want to know the numbers. I want to compare. I need the numbers. That's where my analytics comes in. I need to know the numbers. I
Well,
want to know the numbers.
I got some numbers for you. So who is our guy that doesn't want to give it up to Howie?
Matt Matt
Matt.
Bernarchek.
Matt
Matt
Patricia.
Menard. So Matt, I got some
Oh,
good news for you,
Matty
Matt.
B. I'm sorry.
Matty B. Matty B. Yes, thank you, Matty B. I got good news for you. Speaking of numbers, just found out last week, James,
Hmm.
we're $12 million under the cap. How does he do it, Joe?
I
How
I don't know, but I
does?
hope we don't.
Excuse me,
I
I
hope we don't lose
apologize.
him.
Joe,
I
I
hope we don't lose
apologize,
him to
James.
Wall Street.
Twelve
I
point
hope we
five
don't
million
lose
dollars
him.
under the cap. I'm sorry, 12.5.
I hope we don't lose him to Wall Street. That's all I hope. Like I hope we don't lose him to Wall Street. Like I hope he doesn't become like the national U.S. treasurer and we lose him to like some other big company. I hope Jeffrey Lurie pays him very
dude,
well.
dude, and you know what's funny? You know, I'm listening, sport, and they go, yeah. And the Eagles, they threw it out so casual, James. Oh, by the way, the Eagles are $12.5 million under the cap. I'm like, what the? How? So I raised that to say we know N'Kobe's going to be in there with the linebacking core. It's been said that the
Yep.
lineup
Yep.
isn't set. I mean, excuse me, not the roster isn't set, and that there's a possibility that they may be looking at to bring in another linebacker. I haven't looked at the short list of who's out there, but I know usually how he makes a move, in the middle of camp or towards the end of camp or right before the season starts, he brings someone in, like he did last year with CJ Garner, right? We got him at the end of last year.
Right.
So I think for me, I'm just going to do a homework assignment if you guys know of anybody, but I'm just amazed, man, how this guy is
Well,
able to, and let me just say this. I, they lose me on the cap sometimes, but all I know when I hear under, I'm like, wow, that means you can sign
well,
another player,
A
and
big
yeah.
then
player too, man.
a big player,
Well,
right? To add to
here,
what you already have. This is beautiful.
Yep.
here's where a lot of that money comes in. Not just the player, not just all of that, and you could do your homework, and we all do our homework on that linebacker that you're talking about, Damon.
Mhm.
But the reason why
It's
Howie
amazing.
waits to the end of training camp is because guys get cut and quality guys get cut from good teams. So like good guys get cut, and you can get somebody who's really
Right.
talented for really cheap.
And you might
Um,
be able to get two people with that kind of money.
Possibly,
Could
but
be.
here's the other logic, and this is
Hmm.
where I give Howie a lot of credit. We go back to the chessboard and like looking at things in a long lens perspective.
Hmm.
There's a guy on this offense that needs to be re-signed, and he's going to want money, and that's Mr. Devontae Smith.
Hmm. Hmm.
Absolutely.
So you have that money, and
Hmm.
you have a year to woo this guy, to woo him like that redhead, that blonde, that emo chick at the end of the bar. You have a year to woo him, to convince him that he should take a team friendly long term contract. It's better to be paid team friendly money for a long term and be winning,
Right.
or take a short term big money contract
Hmm.
and be losing. And I think Devontae knows that, and this is the difference when guys come from the SEC programs. They know that you have to make some sacrifices in order to be consistently talented year in and year out.
Right.
They know that. So they're aware that in the NFL, the way that translate in college, it's about sacrificing playing time. In
Okay.
NFL, it's about sacrificing dollars and cents. And I think Devontae knows that. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the poor man on this team.
No.
He's going to get paid, but he's not going to get a max deal. And kudos to Justin Herbert. We all knew this was going to happen. Kudos to Justin Herbert for getting paid $262 million.
Hmm.
Kudos to you, friend, because your coach is a bonehead. So I'm glad you can at least have money, because
But
your
Joe, let me
coach is gonna sink you. Go ahead.
go back to something you said. I don't. I think he's going to get the max in terms of what the value of what he does. And the only reason I believe that to say again, the cap gets over my head, but how he has a way. That's why I said I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the season. Devontae Smith signs a 5-year
Well,
deal, 4-year guarantee, 1-year option with 45 million guarantee. Something like, you know what I mean? Like he has a way to get these
he has a
guys.
way of putting in the contract that he will give. Now, I'll just name an absurd number for a receiver.
Mhm,
5 years, $75 million. Okay, that's a
mhm.
lot of money.
Right.
So, but that $75 million for 5 years might be backloaded.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
$75 million might have may have a base salary of $8 million a year, but then you
Right.
have a potential to make like $20 million a year if you hit certain things,
Sure.
like catch 4,000 yards or
Sure.
10 touchdowns, stuff like that. Howie's good at doing that, just
Right.
because he's like, I'll pay you if you earn it. I'll pay you what
Well,
you think you deserve if you earn it, but not before.
and
Right.
that's why if you go back, they didn't sign because if they was going to re-sign Miles Sanders, they would have done it last year before the season started. They would have done
Yeah.
that old extension that he
Yeah,
does
Well,
absolutely.
I'm
with
still
players.
astounded they have four quality running backs for the same salary as Miles Sanders.
So let
That
me. I'm
still
glad you brought that up.
astounds me.
So your guy Jamie brought up an interesting question this week, and as we wrap up a few more minutes, and James, I don't know if you heard. So Jamie raised an interesting question because of what's going on with Saquon Barkley in New York. He
Huh.
he feels as though that the running back position is being devalued to the point where running backs are not going to receive the money that's equivalent to obviously a wide receiver and sometimes a lineman, sometimes a defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting. I don't know. He mentioned maybe the union should get involved. I don't know how that would be possible because then you might have kickers cry. I don't know, but I do think that position has been devalued. Why I don't know. And
Well, to
do
be
you see
fair,
do you see anything changing with that?
I don't, and
Okay.
let's be honest, and I know James could add on to this, but
Mm-hmm.
the idea that running backs have been devaluing, their value
Mm-hmm.
has been going down and dissipating for years. I,
Right.
and and I and prime example is Ezekiel Elliott still being on a free agent list.
Hmm.
Yo, he
And
hasn't
I
signed with anyone?
Nope,
Wow.
Huh.
nope, and there's a reason. But
Neither is
I go
Cook.
back
Neither is
to
Cook. Neither is Dalvin
well,
Cook. Now
right.
that I think about
Well,
it.
here's
Yeah.
the other thing. So you got guys, and this is why I say this has been happening for years. I go back to DeMarco Murray, and when I brought up about Zeke possibly coming here for a 1 year deal, I got you guys firing back at me about DeMarco Murray, which is perfectly reasonable. But then I go even further back and go to Le'Veon Bell and that situation and
Hmm.
where his money went. Like he went from a $22 million a year running back to a $2 million running
Mhm.
back in a matter of 3 years. That's not an accident. That is a running back, a player, a positional player trying to fight for every dollar and cent. Has it become a devalued position? Yeah. And another prime example how the owners, NFL owners, know this and are responding to that. You have people like Howie that are signing four quality running backs, not great, not good, quality running backs for cheap for
Mhm.
on a temporary basis. Then you
Mhm.
have guys like Bijan Robinson who were projected to not go top 5, let alone top 10, that get drafted fourth. And
Mhm.
so you have guys in running like it was absurd for a running back to get drafted that high.
But you know
So
why they did that?
no, I understand why they did it because they needed that weapon. They needed
In
to
that
have
draw.
that. Yes. And
Because
so
Tom
you have
Brady's gone. I need a draw.
well, that this is Atlanta, and Atlanta doesn't
No,
have a
that's Atlanta.
draw.
I'm thinking he went to
Right,
Tampa. My bad. I'm screwed up in
right.
my head.
But
Right.
that
But they do need a
Atlanta,
draw. He needs a.
they need a draw too. And
That's what
so
I'm saying. Let me
what?
say they need a
Because they
draw. Yeah.
just got a new stadium in Atlanta,
Yeah.
so they need to make money back.
Right.
So one of the things to kind of keep in mind with this downward trend for running backs, will it change? No. I think if anything, you're going to start to see more and more owners and more running backs have a shelf life, a career life of 5 or 7 years max. You're
Yeah.
not gone are the days of the Brian Westbrooks. Gone are the days of the Adrian Petersons. Gone are the days of like the Emmett Smiths.
Deuce
Those
Staley's.
days, right? Those days will not exist anymore.
Yeah.
Those
Well,
days.
here's the other.
Go ahead, James.
No, so here's the other thing too. I think the last time like running backs were like you just mentioned, like the last time they were like legitimately getting good paychecks was like in 2015 during like the last time was like I think it was like 2015 or around that same.
Adrian
Hell,
Peterson.
Adrian Peterson was like the thing was the last time it was
Yeah.
that got like a big multi-year extension,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they don't last long in the
Because
NFL.
No,
Jacobs and the Raiders, he's still holding out.
Yeah, right.
And
no,
I agree with
they
Joe.
signed this extension. They
They
signed this
did.
extension.
Oh, they did.
Yeah,
I didn't know
yeah.
that.
So now Barkley signed a 1 year deal, but they can offer him another. They can franchise him again next year. No, it's interesting. I do believe that they'll try to set some type of rate for them, depending on. Say if you did like 4 years, right? They'll probably set a bar, just like they have a rookie rate that they have in place with the NFL. I think they'll attempt to do it. I don't know if it'll be successful,
No,
but I see
no.
them attempting to do that. To try
Absolutely.
to. But I agree. It's you still need a running back, but it's really changed before our eyes. Where
Yeah.
you know it's not the key position other than the quarterback anymore. So
Yeah,
that'd be
it's a
interesting to
Well,
different
see.
league.
Yep.
Well, guys, it's been a great show. Damon, absolute fantastic job hosting
Thank
Great
you
today.
job,
guys.
man.
Thank you guys. It's
Uh,
fun talking as always.
James, great job producing.
Yep.
Everybody,
Pleasure.
Excellent.
thank you for joining us.
Yes,
Um,
and Foods.
be safe.
I didn't forget Foods. Enjoy the Phillies Pirates game. He posted that he's going to the Phillies Pirates game.
Yeah,
So
stay,
enjoy
Awesome.
that, Foods. Thanks for
stay
listening,
Awesome.
dry
man.
out there, brother. Stay dry
Uh,
out there, man. It's
I'll
pouring
also
out there.
say something because Fuge being in Pittsburgh, I want to just give one more shout out to phillysportstrips.com. Listen, if you guys are trying to book Phillies away games, Eagles away games, or even Sixers away games coming up, go on the phillysportstrips.com. They have great trips coming up. Vince and the crew over there, they take care of you. They make sure your airfares dealt with, your tickets, your food. You'll be fed well, treated like a royalty. Go to phillysportstrips.com and book your trip today. But guys, it's been a great show. You guys,
Yeah.
everybody has been awesome checking in on the board. For Damon Salim, Frank Finnegan, James Scorza, I'm Joe Marks. We're the Pattison Ave Fanatics. Stay cool, Philly. We're
Stay
out.
cool. Later.